What I'm going to read to you now is just a little summary of just something that came off the top of my head when I was just probably cooking breakfast or something like that. But I thought, okay, this is a good thing to read on the show. How to actually develop. Our society encourages adults to specialize and to identify themselves. Also to stay young and simplistic, which means staying immature. But the soul is deprived of its potential fullness or wholeness. Each stage of life should be an exploration into a new dimension. It's natural for a man to be a warrior or an engineer, but if that's all he can be, and the only way he can identify, he's one-sided, as Jung called it. If a woman is beautiful and seductive, or even if she's a warrior, that's amazing, but she can't keep that up for life. So we want to develop all the aspects of our personality as they show themselves. And if a personality aspect is buried in the shadow, we want to dig it out and work with it, then put it into our lives. So this path is soul-making, as Hillman called it. I like that term. It's alchemical. We're making the philosopher's stone. The essence of the alchemical path is self-awareness. Awareness is what is happening inside of our minds and inside of our bodies. From there, it's awareness of what's happening inside the field of relationship and within the field that connects us with others and nature. Rather than letting inner and outer stimuli become our perceptions, we have a dual focus. There's what I'm perceiving, and then there is me, the perceiver. My continual aim is to stay above the perceptions, the feelings, the reactions, and to watch myself in action. This requires a life that has adequate periods of quiet and not being continually bombarded with stimulus. But even when life is busy, we're still aware, watching ourselves from above, like a director watching the actor perform. Awareness of self gets deeper and deeper as we age. At first, we become aware of what we reacted to after the fact. Then we become aware of our reactivity as we are reacting. Eventually, we become aware of it before it occurs, and then we have more ability to choose. Free will is not really present if we don't have the ability to choose to react or not react. This type of practice and growth is well established in Eastern spiritual disciplines. The next level of the alchemical work is the shadow work. Here we continue to become aware of our inner state and what comes up, but we're on the lookout for negative thoughts, judgments, feelings, images, memories, and the like. Instead of distracting away from this, we actually focus down on it and then trace it down to its roots. We're taking an inventory of the negative or shadowy inner material that has been there for a long time, but which we have not wanted to look at. So in this shadow awareness practice, we're pushing back against the discomfort and going into these thoughts and feelings because we know that doing so is the medicine we need. We're cleaning out the closet. We then become aware of how we project our own shadow material onto others and how we use disharmonious activities and behavior to displace our shadow energy into the world. We recognize that what triggers us in others or in the world is actually an aspect of ourselves residing within our own shadows that we learn to trace down and integrate. As we become more conscious of our shadow material, we engage in various practices to integrate that material. We write about it in our journals, we talk about it with other alchemists or therapists, we make art out of it, we find mythological examples that correspond to it, we study our dreams. We study our dreams in the process. There are also techniques such as those described by internal family systems therapy or John Ruskin's emotional clearing practice, and many kinds of somatic practices to help us integrate our shadow material. As we get deeper into the shadow work, we use multiple models and maps to recognize the nature of our inner darkness and of complexes which are autonomous parts of the psyche which interfere in life. We have to use many metaphors and maps to make sense of the psyche, and we continue to update our maps and discover new maps to help us see into this invisible domain. The alchemist also uses the external world as a mirror of their internal state. Whether it's synchronicities that show up in life, or it's the behavior of other people in our lives that we use to understand ourselves at a deep level. Because the human psyche is not just contained within and around the body, but is an embodied and relational field of energy and information, Dan Siegel, and everything that happens to you and around you can be mined for symbolic meaning. As above, so below. As within, so without is the maxim that corresponds to this work. Melissa Mari and I called it living in the movie. The alchemist takes 100% responsibility for everything that happens to them and through them. While the majority of the world is busy reacting without awareness, distracting from their inner state and being thrown about by collective forces, the alchemist is learning to refine their spiritual vehicle, increase the fidelity of their being, and surf the waves of life and culture. We are learning to become co-directors of the movie of life. Materialism, social roles, so-called success, and the like are not our top priorities. We're interested in the evolution of our own consciousness, and therefore we are participating with nature in the evolution of human consciousness. None of this is to say that we should not participate in society, fulfill goals, or be successful in the establishment of those goals. And it is not to say that we should live in abject deprivation of our bodily and sensory needs. Not at all. But our lives are above all else directed by this spiritual endeavor to develop, to become more whole, more mature, self-reflective, non-reactive, loving, compassionate, giving, and creative. In many ways, this path is not dissimilar from the spiritual path of any religious ascetic. There's always a certain percentage of human beings who are completely dedicated to God, and we are as well, but the way in which we perceive God and that which God has sent us to do is the maturation of our own psyches for the benefit of mankind.